The city was silent except for distant sirens and the occasional hum of a passing car. Jamal pulled his black hoodie over his head tighter, hoping to blend into the shadows of the dark alley. The streetlights flickered weakly, casting long, wavering shadows on the cracked pavement. Jamal's heart beat steadily, but beneath that steady rhythm lurked a knot of anxiety he could never shake when walking alone at night. This wasn't just another stroll home. This was a world where every step, every glance could change everything. He kept his head low, hands buried deep in his pockets, his breath visible in the cold night air. The hood wasn't just fashion, it was a shield, a silent plea for invisibility. But tonight, invisibility was a luxury he couldn't afford. From the shadows emerged two white police officers. Their footsteps were heavy, confident, unyielding. "Hey, stop right there," one shouted. Jamal froze. The sudden harsh light from their flashlights stabbed through the darkness, pinning him like an animal in a cage. "Why you out here so late? Hoodie up, head down," the taller officer barked, voice cold and sharp. Jamal swallowed hard. "Just walking home." His voice was calm, but his hands trembled slightly. The other officer stepped closer, eyes scanning his figure with suspicion. "Got ID on you?" "No." The taller officer's face hardened. "Hands behind your back." Before Jamal could react, rough hands grabbed his arms. The cold metal cuffs clicked shut. "You're under arrest," the officer said flatly, the words echoing in Jamal's ears like a sentence he never expected. Jamal's mind raced. Was this real? What had he done? Why was he suddenly a suspect in his own life? The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering intermittently, casting harsh shadows on the peeling walls of the small interrogation room. Jamal sat stiffly on the cold metal chair, his wrists still sore and red from the tight handcuffs. The stale air was thick with tension, and the silence around him felt like a cage tightening slowly. His mind raced, heart hammering against his ribcage, but he fought to keep his breathing steady. He was tired, not just physically from a long day, but emotionally worn down by the weight of this moment. Being treated like a criminal when all he wanted was to go home felt like a nightmare he couldn't wake from. The heavy door creaked open, making Jamal flinch. Two men entered. One was the tall white officer from before, his face set in a cold mask of authority. The other was a man in a sharply pressed suit, his eyes sharp and calculating. The officer closed the door behind them with a soft click. The man in the suit took a seat opposite Jamal, folding his hands on the table. "Jamal," the officer said, voice low and clipped, "you know why you're here?" Jamal shook his head slightly. "No, sir. I was just walking home." The man in the suit leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "We got calls about suspicious activity in the neighborhood. People are scared. Hoodie up, head down, late at night. It raises concerns." Jamal swallowed hard, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'm not suspicious. I was at my friend's house. I didn't do anything wrong." The officer's eyes narrowed. "No ID, no explanation, no cooperation at first. That's not how this works. You understand that." Jamal's jaw clenched. "I was scared to get involved. I didn't want trouble." The suited man sighed, rubbing his temples. "Look, we're trying to keep this neighborhood safe. But if you don't cooperate, this situation could escalate." Jamal felt a wave of frustration rise in his chest. "Why am I being treated like this? Because of my skin? Because I'm young and black? I'm just trying to live my life." The officer leaned in, voice cold. "That's not how it looks to us." Jamal's eyes filled with a mix of anger and helplessness. The room seemed to close in around him. The weight of years of mistrust, of assumptions and prejudice, pressed down hard. Minutes passed like hours. The men questioned him. Routine stuff, but loaded with suspicion. Jamal answered as best as he could, each word feeling like a fight for dignity. Finally, the suited man stood. "We're going to verify your story. Stay put." The officers left the room, the door shutting behind them with a definitive thud. Jamal sank back into the chair, exhaustion washing over him. Outside, the distant sounds of the city went on, unaware of the quiet battle being fought in this small room, between a young man and a system that saw him as a threat before a person. Jamal sat back in the hard chair, the weight of the room pressing down on him. The cold was creeping in, and he hugged himself tightly, trying to hold on to some warmth. His mind spun with questions. How long would they keep him here? Would they believe him? Would he ever walk out free again? Minutes passed slowly, each one stretching longer than the last. The silence was heavy. Outside the door, he could hear faint voices and footsteps, the low murmur of the police station carrying hints of a world moving on without him. His thoughts drifted to his family. His mother, who worked 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads. His little sister, who probably was waiting for him at home, unaware of where he was now. His heart clenched at the thought. Suddenly, the door opened again. The tall officer and the man in the suit walked in, carrying papers. The officer's face was unreadable. The suited man looked more serious than before. "We've checked with your friend," the man said. "He confirmed you were there tonight." Jamal felt a flicker of relief, but remained silent. "We'll be releasing you shortly," the officer added, unlocking the handcuffs. "But understand this, we're watching. Stay out of trouble." Jamal rubbed his wrists, pushing down the frustration bubbling inside him. "Thank you," he muttered. As he stepped out of the room, the fluorescent lights felt harsher, the hallways longer. The wait of the night wasn't over, not by a long shot. Jamal stepped out of the police station into the cold night air, the chill biting through his thin jacket. His legs felt wobbly as he walked down the dimly lit street, the harsh glare of street lamps casting long shadows across cracked sidewalks. The city around him was alive, distant sounds of cars, muffled voices, and the occasional siren in the distance. But Jamal felt utterly alone. Every step felt heavy. The encounter in the police station replayed in his mind like a bad dream. Each question, each cold glance, each accusation burning inside him. The memory of the cuffs still stinging on his wrists, not just physically, but like a brand of shame and suspicion he hadn't asked for. He pulled his hoodie tighter around his head and walked faster, hoping to outrun the weight of the night. But no matter how fast he moved, the fear and anger lingered. Jamal thought about his mother. He remembered how she'd stayed up late working the register at the corner cafe, her tired eyes never losing their warmth when she saw him. She worked so hard to keep their little family afloat. His younger sister still too young for school, his father absent, locked away behind prison walls after a night that changed everything. Jamal's throat tightened at the thought. That night, the night the police came knocking, the night his father was taken, had changed their lives forever. His father had been a good man, caught in a storm of injustice. And now, Jamal was left to carry the weight of those memories, the stigma, and the fear. He stopped beneath a flickering street lamp and looked up at the cold sky, stars hidden behind a blanket of clouds. How many more nights like this would he have to endure? How many more times would he be seen as a threat, just for existing? Suddenly, a sharp noise startled him, a cat darting across the street. Jamal's breath caught as a car sped past, splashing water onto the sidewalk. He wiped his face, the cold rain mixing with the tears he hadn't realized were falling. "Don't break down," he whispered to himself. "You're stronger than this." He pulled out his phone. No messages, no missed calls. His friends were probably asleep or busy. He felt the crushing loneliness of being young, black, and invisible in a city that often seemed to want to erase him. Jamal thought about the coming days, school, the endless eyes of classmates, the whispers, the stares. The boy in the hoodie, the one the police stopped for no reason, the one who didn't fit their idea of innocence. But Jamal also remembered something else, his own strength, his mother's strength, the quiet defiance in his sister's smile, the hope that maybe one day, things would change. He took a deep breath, straightened his shoulders, and started walking again. Tomorrow was another day, another fight, and Jamal was ready to keep fighting. Jamal's feet dragged along the cracked pavement as he made his way home, the cold night air biting at his skin. The familiar streets of his neighborhood felt different tonight, heavier, charged with a tension he couldn't shake. Each passing face seemed to carry a silent judgment, an unspoken question. What did you do this time? His mind raced with memories from the police station, the weight of suspicion pressing down on him like a physical force. The officer's eyes hadn't seen Jamal as a boy, but as a threat, someone to watch, to control, to keep in his place. He turned a corner and spotted the warm glow of the cafe where his mother worked late shifts. The small neon sign flickered, casting a faint red light over the cracked window. He paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts before pushing open the door. Inside, the scent of coffee and baked goods filled the air. His mother stood behind the counter, wiping down tables with tired hands, her face lighting up when she saw him. "Jamal," she said softly, rushing over to embrace him. "You're home. I was worried." He swallowed hard, the knot in his throat tightening. "It's okay, Mom. I'm fine." She looked into his eyes, searching for the truth, but he turned away, not ready to share the night's ordeal. Sitting at a corner table, Jamal pulled his hoodie over his head, trying to disappear into the shadows. Around him, the cafe buzzed with the quiet chatter of late-night customers, oblivious to the storm brewing inside the small room. His mother sat down beside him, her hand resting gently on his. "You don't have to carry this alone," she whispered. Jamal wanted to believe her, wanted to lean into her comfort. But the fear lingered, tangled with anger and shame. He was just a kid, caught in a world that saw him as less. The night stretched on as they sat together, two souls battling invisible demons. Jamal knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, the whispers at school, the sideways glances, the weight of expectations. But in this small moment, in the quiet warmth of the cafe, he allowed himself to hope. Maybe one day, the world would see him for who he truly was, not a threat, but a boy fighting to find his place. The morning light filtered weakly through the cracked blinds of Jamal's bedroom. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the night's events in his mind. The faint sounds of the city waking up floated through the window. Distant horns, the rumble of buses, footsteps on sidewalks. Life was moving on outside, indifferent to his turmoil. Today was school. The hallways where he had once felt safe now felt like a battlefield. The whispers would start as soon as he walked in. Rumors from the police encounter, stories twisted and reshaped by fear and ignorance. Jamal forced himself out of bed, splashing cold water on his face. His reflection looked tired, older than his years. He pulled on his worn hoodie, the one that had become his armor, and stepped out into the morning chill. At school, the usual crowd gathered near the entrance, laughing, joking, but their eyes flickered to Jamal with something else. A mix of curiosity, suspicion, and something darker. He passed by them, head down, heart pounding. The halls echoed with footsteps and murmurs. "Hey, hoodie boy, what did you do last night?" A voice sneered. Jamal kept walking. Another voice called. "Cops don't mess around for no reason, you know." He heard the laughter that followed, cold and sharp. Jamal's stomach churned, but he kept his pace steady. Inside, he was screaming. How could they be so quick to judge? So eager to believe the worst? In class, his teacher glanced at him briefly, but said nothing. The day dragged on, every minute stretching endlessly. At lunch, Jamal sat alone on a bench outside, the cold metal biting through his clothes. He watched groups of students laughing and talking, feeling like an outsider looking in. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a figure approaching. It was Maya, quiet, smart, someone who didn't care about popularity. She sat beside him without a word, pulling her jacket tighter around herself. "You okay?" she asked softly. Jamal shrugged. "Doesn't feel like it." Maya nodded, understanding. "People talk, but they don't know you." Her words were a small balm on his raw feelings. For a moment, he felt seen. "You're not alone," she said. Jamal looked at her, a flicker of hope sparking inside. Maybe, just maybe, he could survive this. After school, Jamal lingered near the basketball courts, watching as the popular kids threw the ball back and forth. His eyes caught the figure of Tyler, the white football star who had always looked at him with disdain, a smirk on his face as if daring Jamal to prove himself. Tyler's crew laughed loudly, throwing playful jabs at each other, but when their eyes landed on Jamal, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter died down, replaced by a tense silence. "Hey, Hoodie," Tyler called out, tossing the ball to the ground. "Heard you had some run-in with the cops last night." Jamal stiffened, but he didn't reply. He kept his gaze fixed on the cracked pavement. Tyler stepped closer, his voice low and cold. "You think you're better than us?" "I don't think about you," Jamal said quietly. Tyler's smirk widened. "Big mistake." Suddenly, a teacher appeared nearby, breaking the moment. Tyler backed off with a casual shrug. As Jamal walked away, Maya caught up to him. "That was close," she whispered. "I don't want trouble," Jamal said, voice tense. "I know," she replied. "But sometimes trouble finds you." The weight of those words pressed down on Jamal. He realized the battle wasn't just outside, but inside himself, between fear and courage, silence and speaking out. That night, Jamal sat at the kitchen table, his mother's tired eyes watching him. "You don't have to fight alone," she said softly. Jamal nodded. "I just want to be seen for who I really am." His mother smiled sadly. "We'll get through this together." The days that followed were a whirlwind of whispered rumors and pointed glances. Jamal's world seemed to shrink, the hallways of his school growing darker with every step. The weight of isolation pressed heavily on his young shoulders. One afternoon, as he was leaving class, Tyler blocked his path, flanked by two of his friends. The familiar smirk on Tyler's face sent a chill down Jamal's spine. "Where do you think you're going, Hoodie?" Tyler asked, stepping closer. Jamal swallowed hard, trying to steady his breath. "Just leaving." Tyler laughed, a cruel sound. "You think you can run from this? From me?" Before Jamal could respond, one of Tyler's friends shoved him lightly, enough to make him stumble but not fall. The sudden jolt sent a ripple of anger through Jamal, but he held back, knowing any reaction could escalate the situation. Maya appeared then, her voice firm. "Leave him alone." Tyler turned to her, eyes narrowing. "What's this? Your bodyguard?" Maya stood her ground. "No, I'm his friend." The tension was thick, but before it could boil over, a teacher's voice cut through. "Tyler, get to class. Now." Tyler shot Jamal one last glare before storming off with his crew. Jamal exhaled deeply, the adrenaline leaving his body in waves. Maya looked at him with concern. "You okay?" she asked. Jamal nodded slowly. "I will be." That night, at home, Jamal sat by his window, staring at the stars. His mother's words echoed in his mind. "You don't have to fight alone." He realized the fight wasn't just against the bullies or the unfair judgments. It was for himself, for his dignity, for the right to be seen and heard. With a newfound resolve, Jamal whispered to the night, "I'm not running anymore." The next morning, Jamal walked into school with his head held a little higher. The weight of yesterday's confrontation still lingered, but inside, a fire had been lit. In homeroom, Maya slid a note across the desk to him. It read, "Meet me by the gym after school. We need to talk." All day, Jamal's mind raced with possibilities. What could she want to discuss? Was it about Tyler? Or something else? After the last bell, Jamal headed to the gym. Maya was waiting by the bleachers, her expression serious but hopeful. "I've been talking to some students," she said quietly. "There are others who want to stand up, but they're scared." Jamal nodded. "I get it. Everyone's afraid. But fear doesn't have to stop us," Maya insisted. "We can't let Tyler and his friends control the school." Jamal felt a surge of courage. "What do you want to do?" "We're going to organize a group," Maya said. "People who've been bullied, ignored, or hurt. We'll support each other, show that we're stronger together." Jamal smiled for the first time in days. "I'm in." As they talked plans and strategies, Jamal realized he wasn't alone. For the first time, hope flickered in the dark halls of his school. Over the next weeks, the group grew quietly but steadily. Jamal, Maya, and their friends met after school in secret, sharing stories and supporting one another. The atmosphere in the school began to shift, not overnight, but subtly, like the first light of dawn breaking through darkness. One afternoon, as Jamal walked down the hallway, he noticed a few students who once ignored him now offered nods or brief smiles. The football players still ruled the school, but their grip on power seemed less certain. Then came the day of the big game. Tyler, the star player, walked past Jamal in the locker room, his usual smirk replaced with a cautious glance. Jamal held his gaze, unflinching. After the game, Maya approached Jamal, excitement in her eyes. "We did it," she whispered. "People are talking. They're listening." Jamal smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't known before. At home, his mother hugged him tightly. "You're brave," she said. "I'm proud." Jamal looked out the window at the fading sunset. "This is just the beginning," he said softly. "Because even in the darkest places, courage can grow. And sometimes, standing tall is the first step toward change."